Hello everyone, this is Paukshta Fashion Workshop. I remind you that we post new videos every day. Last time I showed you a review of this coat. Today Natalie will help me show you how to make this detail, a concealed buttonhole. I remind you that there are no seams on the right side of the button stand. We will show you how to make such buttonholes. This is the edge, so we need to draw an opening for a concealed buttonhole here. We need to draw it 3 cm away from the edge. It should be 5 cm long. This is where the opening for a concealed buttonhole is going to be placed. It should be 5 cm long. Next, we need to draw 2 more lines here, each 5 mm away from the first one. After that, we need to draw an opening for a buttonhole. It should be made on the same level as the center of the first opening. The distance between the 2 lines is 1 cm. Have a look here. This is the outer edge of the button stand. This is the opening for a concealed buttonhole. This is the opening for a regular buttonhole. It's placed 1 cm away from this line. Have a look here once again. Opening for a concealed button stand, the main buttonhole. This piece of fabric is doubled with interfacing material. We'll use this piece to cut the facing for the buttonholes of it. The first detail should be 1.5 cm wide. Let's cut it. The second detail should be 6 cm wide. Or even better, 7 cm. I'll explain why. These details should be attached here. This one will be attached to the wrong side. It will cover the opening for a concealed button stand. The first detail is 1.5 cm wide, and the second one 7 cm wide. Natalie says that we need to cut 2 more details in order to make the facing for the opening. Natalie, make them shorter. They should be just a bit longer than the buttonhole is. It's clear that 1.5 cm wide detail folded in half turns into a 7 mm wide detail. Iron the details. Don't be afraid to press them hard. These are the 2 tiny facing details which we made for the buttonhole. Have a look at the next details. The first one should also be tied. And the second one should be folded just for 7 mm and then ironed. We can move these details aside. We'll be working with the next ones now. I remind you that this is the opening for the concealed buttonhole, and this is the buttonhole itself. These are the 2 facing details for the buttonhole. I can move them aside now. These are the 2 facing details for the opening. The first one is also tied, and the second one is tied here and about 6 or 7 cm wide on the other side. We'll show you what to do next. Natalie wants to cut lining right away. The first detail is tied, and the second one is pressed this way. We'll use them to make an opening for the concealed buttonhole. We're going to use these two details later. Natalie is stitching the first detail. Very nice. Natalie attached the first facing detail for the opening for a concealed buttonhole. Let's have a look at the second detail. The line to which it should be attached is drawn. Let's have a look at the wrong side of the button stand. There are straight stitching rows here. Have a look here once again. The tied detail is attached closer to the outer edge of the button stand, and the wide one to the other side, tied but down. Next, Natalie will cut the opening and turn the details to the wrong side. The details are very small, so you should be careful and attentive when cutting. Make sure that you are accurate when cutting the details from the wrong side. Stop cutting about 1 cm away from the edges and make tiny cuts towards the angles. Natalie cut the opening. She can turn the details to the wrong side now. By doing so, we are not only making a buttonhole, but we are also making a facing for the buttonhole itself. We need to iron the details. The facing will cover the buttonhole. Let's go to the ironing desk. This is how the opening for a concealed button stand looks like now, from the right side and from the wrong side. The first facing detail is tight, and the second one is wide. It will cover the buttonhole. It will be attached to the button stand wrong side to the wrong side. We need to iron these details once again. Anyway, we need to fix these angles first. Be very attentive. This is very important. Do not forget to fix these tiny angles. The stitched angles make the bound buttonhole stronger. After that, the detail should be ironed once again. Next, we need to draw the buttonhole itself and start working with it. It should be situated about 1 cm away from the opening, and it should be about 2.5 cm wide. Next, we will be working with these facing details. Let's go to the sewing machine. Make sure that you don't stitch them to the facing detail, which is on the wrong side now. Be very attentive.
Смотрите.
We are stitching the facing details.
Она должна быть отдельно. Петельку делаем на одном слое, в самом нашем пальто.
We are stitching the facing details.
Для нашей петелечки.
The order of actions is very important. Notice that the two stitching rows are straight and even. Next, we need to cut an opening here. Do not forget to make tiny cuts towards the angles. The technique is very complicated. I know that the button stands made this way look amazing. Anyway, as you already know, I prefer fast and easy ways to work. This is why I'm going to make a course on how to make concealed button stands. I'm going to show you a different technique. When the details are turned to the wrong side, you should go to an ironing desk to press them. You can iron this detail through this one. It's absolutely okay. The detail should be pressed pretty hard. They are thick and strong. This is the opening for the concealed buttonhole, and this is the buttonhole. The buttonhole should be double. That means that we also need to make an opening in this detail. We are not going to do it the same way. We are going to make a buttonhole using a zigzag seam. You can also use this technique to edge the buttonholes when making bond buttonholes. We'll fix these tiny angles first. This is what we're doing now. As I've already said, this is very important. Have a look here. We drew the buttonhole here on the facing. Instead of cutting it, we'll stitch it with a zigzag seam first. There are a lot of different ways for making buttonholes. You can use the one which is more convenient for you. It's not necessary to have a special sewing machine for making buttonholes. You can find the mode we are using now in the most of the household sewing machines. We can cut an opening now. Use scissors to do it. Have a look here. This is the bond buttonhole,
Вот наша рамочка, ну а следующий
And
петля
this
у нас
one was
получается
made with a zigzag
на
seam.
зигзаге обработанная. Не надо
I
его
recommend
там
always
обрезать
making
и
such
потом
buttonholes
ушить
this
вручную,
way.
потому что это очень сложно. Сейчас Наташа
Natalie will
удалит
remove
вот
all
эти
the
все
extra
излишки,
pieces
лохматушки
and then show you
и
what to do
прикрепит
next.
немножечко вручную. Да, да.
Do not forget to cut the extra pieces from these details. I remind you that the seams should be soft. Next, we need to attach the two buttonholes to each other by hands. It's not hard to do it. Have a look here. Due to the fact that we made these buttonhole this way instead of making a bound one, we not only avoided making two thick seams, but also made the sewing process much easier. The buttonhole is ready. Next, we need to cover it with lining. Natalie will stitch this edge first. I remind you that we are stitching the lining to the facing. Next, we need to stitch the other edges.
Подкладочку вот так соединить с нашей аптечкой.
I feel sorry for Natalie because she had to spend so much time making just one buttonhole. Imagine there were 3 buttonholes in a garment. Anyway, the technique is very useful. It's worth the spent time. I will be really happy if some of you decide to make such buttonholes. Let's have a look at what we got here. The opening is very beautiful. There's cashmere on one side and lining on the other. This is the buttonhole. I'm glad that we decided to edge the lower one with a zigzag seam. Next, we'll stitch the facing to the button stand to show you how it should look like. I remind you that this is the facing and this is the garment. Imagine this was a coat. This is the right side of the button stand. Notice that it's absolutely clear. There is a buttonhole and an opening for it on the facing. So basically, you need to make kind of a tiny pocket for each buttonhole. I honestly think that I'm not patient enough for this technique. I got tired even of looking how Natalie was making it. I'm glad that we at least decided not to edge the lower layer of the buttonhole like the front one. The seams would have been too thick in this case. I remind you that we were working with cashmere. This detail looked absolutely gorgeous. I really hope that you'll find this tutorial useful. When showing you the review of the coat made in 1962, I told you that you need to be smart to make such coat. It's true. This is just one of the many interesting details we saw in the coat. That's all for today. be different and beautiful. Вы Паукшта Ирина and Natalie. Subscribe to my channel, write comments, share videos, press the like and the bell buttons. Thank you. Goodbye.